We went paddling at a standard club.
Live halfway, Florence.
Oh, that's right. It was man of love range. Yeah. Yeah, I got all excited when I First time trying to get the recommendation.
All right. All right, everybody. Settle down, settle down. It's not working. Hello. I got to enunciate. Hello, everybody. If you can hear me online, give me a good thumbs up. For those of you cameras on. All right. Well, hi, everyone in person and online. We're so glad you could be here tonight. We got a great spread over there. I'm really impressed with all y'all. So feel free to get up at any time and go get some more snacks. Yeah, and you know, the bathrooms are over there. And let's have a good time tonight. We have a great agenda. So we're gonna go over some old business, but then we have some exciting member presentations tonight. So Greta, Jason, Victoria, Maeve, and Sudie will be talking at you. So you're gonna get a whole mix of stuff tonight. Then we got the favorites. We got Plan of the Month. We have a couple upcoming events, and then the rest of the evening, you know, if that doesn't take up most of the evening, while we're eating and chatting for the last couple minutes, we'll have a slideshow playing of our first year. So yeah, let's get to it. So with our old business, I think, yeah, Trapper, you're up, you're on deck. Trapper's gonna talk to, if you could come up here, then the folks online can hear you better.
Good evening. If you don't know me, I'm Trapper Fowler. I work for Coastal Conservation League and used to manage Lewis Ocean Bay for South Carolina DNR for about 6 years or so. So I want to give some updates. I think most of you are probably aware that Lewis Ocean Bay is a unique place. It's a fire dependent ecosystem. Many of the plants and animals are dependent upon that fire to maintain their habitat. It's also important because that every time you burn, it lowers the wildfire risk for the surrounding community. And we've seen two of the state's largest wildfires in and around Lewis Ocean Bay back in '76 and 2009. So Lewis Ocean Bay is under threat. That's, you know, from external threats. One being a proposed sand mine, but the one I want to talk about tonight is the Conway Medical proposal. So they're planning on putting a new facility right across the street, right there behind the fire drop gates. That's an issue, and you know, fire and hospitals don't really play well together, as you can imagine. You can't send smoke purposely towards a hospital because it's a fire or a smoke sensitive area. That's by state law. So we feel, and most of the conservation community feels, that the hospital will no doubt cause for some new challenges when it comes to prescribed burning that has to occur. We're still waiting for a third reading. So for them to put a hospital there, it has to be rezoned. They also have to get a future land use amendment because it's considered scenic conservation. So from what I understand, we haven't had a second reading for the future land use amendment. I think somehow that got out of, you know, sync with the rezoning. But either way, we are awaiting a third reading for rezoning. But the reason I bring up that future land use amendment is we might have an opportunity where we get a public hearing for that future land use amendment, which would be huge because during third reading, you typically don't get to speak. But either way, we want to turn a bunch of folks out for that meeting. So if you're interested and want to know more, you know, please let me know. Stay in tune with Native Plant Society. We will let them have as much heads up as we get. Unfortunately, with rezoning cases, you often don't know it's gonna be on the agenda until the Friday before the Tuesday of the meeting, so it makes it a little difficult. But anyways, we think, you know, the reason they haven't had that reading yet is because the county is waiting for their mitigation bank to be approved. That's a whole nother story. If you're interested, I'd love to talk about it more, but basically it has to have fire too, to release credits to improve our infrastructure in this county, roads and bridges. So without fire, that's unsuccessful as well. So two big issues there. They're waiting for the approval of their mitigation bank plan or their banking instrument. Soon as that's approved by the Army Corps, they'll have this third reading. I'm being told from some friends that the banking instrument will be approved by the end of the year. So the next county meeting, the next county council meeting is December 12th. We could see it then. They have not posted the dates for January yet for the council meetings. Those should be up sometime soon, I'm guessing. But we could see this as early as December 12th, but perhaps first of the year. So that's kind of on that. Related to that, there's a QR code back there on a little stand. We'd like to have folks share and or sign a petition against the hospital if you haven't done so, or if you know have some people you can share it with. All you gotta do is scan that QR code with your phone, and it'll take you straight to it. You just enter your information. I also have some paper copies of the petition. I can leave those on the back table as well. So that's kind of that update. And then, you know, some more, I guess, positive, but still related is we had a local artist come out to Lewis Ocean Bay, Mary Edna Frazier, who is an excellent artist, and she came out and spent about 7 days in the field. This is a video of her actually doing the work, but this was all to raise awareness about the hospital issue. So really neat. She is planning to have her art. She painted this like huge canvas of one of the fire maintained landscapes, what we all call Flytrap Corner. Really pretty scenic place in Lewis Ocean Bay with pitcher plants. So anyways, that'll be on display. It's on her site now. You can check out the video. She'll have it at Hobcall or Hobnaw for Hobcall on display there. And then me and Mary Edna may actually team up and do a talk / exhibit at Brook Green. So maybe I'll see some of you folks sooner than later, but we're hoping to kind of move the artwork from Hobcall to Brook Green. Not sure the details yet. We're still working all that out, but might be kind of like a talk and art exhibit, but we'll see. What else do I got? Related to all this and further reason why we don't need Conway Medical on International Drive, 3 of our area hospitals, including McLeod Hospital, that's less than 1.3 miles away. So as you move away from the hospital site towards 31, McLeod Hospital already has a footprint with some offices there. 3 of our area hospitals all received their certificate of need. So that means they can improve their current facilities and build out their plans as is. They don't have to wait on anything. Historically in South Carolina, you have to have a certificate of need to be able to do that, but they've all gotten approved. So McLeod is saying there's a really good article a couple months back, but they're saying they're going to build their campus out within the next 2 years. So further reason why we do not need CMC right there, less than 1.3 miles away. Plus, they're not creating 50 new beds. They're just moving 50 beds from their current campus. So they're not actually giving us more medical services through that. Lastly, and I'll be real quick on this one because I know I'm probably over my time. The Coastal Conservation League, we hired some third-party consultants out of North Carolina. There's a couple gentlemen that I've met through my career with fire, with prescribed fire. I I've actually been to a couple of their talks, but we hired these guys. They model smoke for a living. And we basically told them, the scenario on the ground, told them our concerns and said, we have like, we know it's going to cause an impact on, prescribed burning opportunity, but we don't have a way to prove it yet. And so these guys, we basically took existing smoke sensitive areas. So something like Highway 90 or Highway 31. We took all that into account as to where you can't send smoke right now today. We put the hospital there as if it was there today. And then we used real on the ground fire weather from last burn season. You mix all that up in a model with current fuel loads, real weather data from last year, and basically looked at what the hospital would take away from burning opportunity. And no doubt, this model proves that putting a hospital there will not only make it more difficult to burn, but certainly take away burn days or burn opportunities. So we have reached out to Horry County Council about this new information. We've reached out to Army Corps of Engineers with this new information, and no one is willing to hear us out or meet with us. We share the results with them anyways, but we have the science to back up everything we've been saying, everything DNR has been saying, everything some of you have been saying. So I just want to let y'all know about that too, that there is actually scientific proof through modeling that a hospital will cause impact to prescribed fire operations. So that's all I got. If you got any questions, these folks know how to get a hold of me. I can leave a couple of my cards, but please share the petition with people. Please be ready to show up at county council because we're going to need you there. Thank you.
Thanks, Trapper. Yeah, don't forget to sign that petition if you haven't already. All right, spoilers. Since we last met, we had a plant sale. How many of you were able to join us on Saturday, October 7th? That's awesome. I don't know about you, but I think it went pretty well. Huge shout out to Tierney, who spearheaded that committee. So woo! Look at this lovely bunch of people. I think Sally, you're not in this photo. Sally was there too, who helped make the day possible. And yeah, I think we're gonna do it again. Does that sound all right to y'all? Your plant market committee and is thinking about a spring plant sale, and we'll let you know as soon as we figure out the details. Has everyone planted all the plants they bought? Okay, yeah, we all have. We're all on the same page there. All right, that was an amazing effort, and I'm really proud that we were able to do that in our first year. So how about one more round of applause for us? Yeah. All right. It is, yes. Yep.
Now that was great.
Yeah, we think so too. All right. I wanted to announce that there are 110 Grand Strand members. Yeah. So we're, and, some couldn't make it tonight, but 110 folks are at least financially supportive of the Grand Strand chapter. And so we went from 0 to 110. So that's like a million% increase, I think. If you aren't a member, we always encourage that. Your most current memberships will expire at the end of the year. So you'll get some sort of notification via email urging you to renew next year. That the way you signed up, if you signed up online, might change in the new year, but we'll give you more information once that happens. But at the state annual meeting, we approved the bylaws. So the bylaws change your membership to be valid from the day that you pay your dues, whereas previously they all expired on December 31st. So not a big deal, but just to note that sign up again in the new year if you'd like. But yeah, we probably won't bother you until next meeting in January about that. You don't have to be a member to participate, but one of the perks is you get to sign up first for field trips if you are a member. All right. Yeah, so we did year one, and now we're looking ahead to year two. So a couple things will change. First, the meeting registration, you will no longer need to sign up via Eventbrite. The Zoom link will remain the same, so you can just use it again and again. And we'll put that in the newsletter. So you might get fewer reminders from the Eventbrite, those automatic reminders. So put it in your calendar. Does anyone have any questions about that? Cool. But we'll meet here still in person if you'd like to join us in person. We're looking into merchandise. I don't know if y'all have seen this cool t-shirt I'm wearing. Our colleagues in the Low Country chapter, they designed this and printed this shirt. And some of our other chapters, the Midlands, has a really beautiful yellow shirt with a monarch on it, as that was part of their Save the Monarch campaign that they did one year. So we're looking to get you some cool t-shirts and maybe hats, who knows? So we'll be working on that in the new year, and we might call on you to submit art if you're artsy and have ideas for a t-shirt. So is that something y'all are interested in? A plant t-shirt? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, we'll keep doing that then. And in year two, we will become a democracy. Well, we will have fair and free elections. And so if you're interested in being an officer, come talk to us. You can talk to me and I'll tell you all the details. In short, we have monthly meetings. They're mostly held via Zoom. And here are some of the things we still need help with. We need help welcoming new and existing members and sort of keeping track of our 110 members. The communication folks really need help creating newsletters. So if you're either writing for newsletters or just organizing all the things that are going on that we want to include in our newsletters, if you're interested in that, let us know. We also need help with record keeping and photo taking, and these are things everyone can help with. So if you're ever at an event with us, take a photo. Y'all should be taking selfies right now. What are you doing? So those are some things we need help with. If you think you can help us, let us know. It's pretty low commitment, except it might eat up a lot of your time. We do have these monthly meetings, and then your communication or your steering committee this year has been meeting, has been messaging online in between our meetings to stay on top of things. I do want to point out some of our committees. We've already had folks who have signed up to help. So the education committee that is spearheaded by Maeve is looking good. There's a whole bunch of folks who are ready to help plan next year's events. So our meeting speakers, our field trips. So yay to them. Our plant market committee, spearheaded by Tierney, is again looking to year two. So she's got a bunch of volunteers ready for that. But our communication committee is really sad right now. So if you'd like to help with that, come talk to me. Yeah. So I do want to recognize your 2023 steering committee. These are them. So can I have Tierney, Kara, Maeve couldn't be here, but she's with us in spirit. Sudie, Aaron, and Jan, and Victoria. I'm Victoria. Y'all would all come up here for a second. These folks worked really hard over the past year. So we got them a little token of our appreciation. So actually the chapter did. So they get this nifty South Carolina Native Plant Society tote bag. Yay! Pass them down. So yeah, thank you all. Here's a tote bag. If you would like a tote bag next year, or it could be a jacket, who knows where we're going. Talk to us about helping the steering committee /board. So do y'all have anything?
Do you want to take a picture of your student?
Oh, yeah. Oh my goodness, excellent photo taking. Can I have someone, Jason,
Guess
can
we
you come
better
take
go
this
another day.
photo? All right. And we'll just Photoshop Maeve in.
Two, one.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
That picture would look great on the wall of the post office.
All right. Enough of me talking. We're now here for the main event, which is our member presentations. We have folks who signed up to tell you what they know and what they're passionate about for native plants. So we're gonna start off with Greta. And now everyone needs to be really nice to Greta. If you're not, Kara's gonna come yell at you. So Greta's gonna talk to us about winter sewing. And I'm gonna pull up her slideshow. Quickly.
Greta.
Greta! All right. Is that what you're seeing online, Tierney?
Yeah.
All right. You all good?
Here's some handouts.
Okay.
Later on, I'll point to you and it's time to hand them out.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
You want to press the arrow and make sure it goes.
All right, folks, my name is Greta and I'm here to talk to you about winter sewing.
Oh, let's try. No, do it. There we go.
All right. But first of all, I gotta confess to you, I am a novice when it comes to native plants. I started from absolute zero a couple of years ago, and I've made a little bit of progress, but I still have a long way to go. And I sure am glad you all are here to guide me in the right direction. My passion for nature is driven by a fascination of how plants and trees and shrubs and insects and birds and animals all work together, benefiting each other. When I found out how the use of pesticides and destructions of habitat affected nature's balance, I wanted to do something to help. So, I've always had a desire to work with people and, doing things for the environment. And I started taking morning walks. And when I started taking the morning walks and started looking around me, I realized just how unobservant I am. My walks became longer and longer and covering, more territory. And so I started paying more attention to the greens and yellows and blues and whites that beautify the shoulder of the road. And to fully understand how that discovery affected me, you got to understand that I have lived on the same dirt road way out in the boondocks for the past 20 years. And in all that time, I never noticed the wildflowers out there. And how I miss that, so obvious to me now. I don't know how I miss seeing these things. And now that I had that epiphany, I get a real kick out of walking around the secondary roads and around the farm fields, investigating all the native flora that just seems to pop up from nowhere. And I've gotten to be very interested in protecting these habitats and all the life that depends on these healthy, diverse ecosystems. So last year I started collecting seeds from all the wildflowers with the dream of turning my yard into an absolute paradise, pollinator paradise. But unfortunately, that's where the problem began, because I don't know a thing about doing anything like that. And being new to this, I didn't know anything, and I didn't know what to plant in the fall. I didn't know what waits until spring. I didn't know what needs winter stratified. I didn't even know what winter stratifying was. But then I joined a couple of Facebook groups. I found a cool way to germinate the seeds. And even, someone like me, a novice like me, can't mess up. So it's called winter sowing. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about tonight. It's winter sowing. And I hope you'll forgive me. I did a lot better on my practice runs than I'm doing right now. Okay, what is winter sowing? Winter sowing actually takes a lesson from Mother Nature. In late summer, the seeds fall to the ground. They're covered by leaves, dirt, and other organic material, and they stay under that protective layer throughout the winter. And the cold temperatures and the moist conditions breaks the seed's dormancy, and they germinate when temperatures increase in the spring. Well, winter sowing actually replicates that process by planting seeds in a covered container and leaving those covered containers outside during the winter months. And the seeds are watered by the rain and the snow. Well, not so much snow around here, but and the cold, moist conditions actually, stratify the seeds. And when the seedlings emerge in the spring, they're ready to go. And there are some advantages. A lot of people think that just clearing out your garden spot and planting all your perennials and your annuals in that garden spot in the fall, they're going to be ready to bloom in the next spring. Well, this basically follows the same thing, but there's a couple of advantages to doing it with the winter sowing. A tip that I picked up is that as far as preparing your garden beds for the winter, it's better just not to do anything at all to them. Just let them be like they are. Even though all the plants have died, they still have an important role to play for the wildlife. The insects and other creatures, they overwinter underground or in the stems or amongst all the foliage. And the birds will take advantage of the seed heads. So instead of clearing out all the debris and pre-planting the seeds for next year, let the garden be, and then try winter sowing for your flowers. And also it works for grasses, it works for shrubs, it works for everything except for bulb plants. Okay? The winter sowing makes life easier for everybody, and you don't have to worry about your freshly planted seed being washed away by the rain or eaten by the animals. And then again, on the other hand, if you prefer to do your planting in the spring, the advantage is that you don't have to rush around and do everything all at one time. You have the whole winter to do it as you wish, at your leisure. And another advantage is that you don't have to store seeds in the fridge or use up indoor space for any type of greenhouse equipment or growing lights or anything like that. And the seedlings that are winter sown are much more hardy than the seeds that you grow inside. The seeds that you grow inside sometimes are sort of leggy and very delicate. But the ones that you plant outside and with the winter sowing, they're hardier and they're able to tolerate environmental changes, handling, transplanting, and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, with winter sowing, you prepare the containers at your own leisure. And you just place them in a sunny spot somewhere in your yard or your porch or your patio, somewhere where they can get some rain and snow, get some moisture, and just forget about them. Just let them be until the following spring. And then you will be very, very surprised at what you come out with. Oh, my favorite part is that it's a way to keep your hands dirty in the winter time. I like to play in the dirt. And this is a way for me to be able to keep my hands dirty and do something that I enjoy doing and not be bored stiff sitting inside watching TV. All right. Some of the things that you need to do winter sowing. The first thing you need is containers. You can use bottles, you can use milk bottles, you can use soda bottles, you can use any type of bottle as long as it's transparent or translucent and allows the sun to come in, the light to come in through there. You can use old flower pots and stick them inside of a bag here. Any way that you can put these things together that creates sort of a mini greenhouse. You do it this way. Or you can use plastic cups, put them inside the bag. You can, the sky's the limit. You can use just about anything you want to do the winter sowing. That's one of the things that I like about it, is that it's very cost efficient. You can use whatever you've got around your house. You could also just put two cups together and take them around. Other things that you need is something to cut the containers with, something to make holes in the tops of the containers, screwdriver, knife, whatever, a way to seal the container up with tape or with pipe cleaners. And you need something to write on the bottle what you have inside, because believe me, when you get to the spring, you're not going to remember what's in each of the bottles, especially if you have 20 or 30 bottles laying around your patio. You know, look at it and say, okay, what are you? Mystery plant, all right. You need potting soil. I was going to bring potting soil with me, but I didn't want to make a mess of it. You also need seeds. Okay. And the first step in getting ready to do the winter sowing, if you pass out those handouts here, the handouts here gives you all the information that I'm going over right here. First thing you need to do is to make sure your container is nice and clean. It doesn't have any residue inside. Okay, the next thing you need to do is to cut your container. And the best way I found to make a straight line for cutting this container is to use a cup. And your handy dandy pencil, put that across the top of there and just twirl the bottom around here. And that'll make a nice line there, nice guideline for you to cut with. And then all you need to do is just cut it and leave this area right underneath the handle uncut. Just go around there and cut. You wind up with something like this. Okay. Next, what you need to do is you need to create some air holes into your bottle. I use my handy dandy little knife here, and I cut into here, make little holes across the top here. Or you could use a screwdriver to do that. You could use a glue gun. You could use a soldering iron. You could use a drill. You could use just about anything that'll make the holes. And you also need to make some holes in the bottom for drainage. Okay, after you have your container prepared, you need to reach over here and grab some of your imaginary potting soil and stick in here. Okay, you fill this up, fill it up until you've got at least 3 or 4 inches of potting soil inside your container. And get a pack of seeds, open it up, sprinkle it on there, and do it sort of densely. You know, you don't use common sense. You don't have to pour the whole thing on at one time. But make it sort of dense because you can always weed out and you know, see what you want to do when everything blooms. And this guarantees that you will have quite a few blooms in here, or quite a few seedlings in here, the denser you put the seeds in. Okay, I skipped a step, forgive me. Before you put the seeds in there, you need to water the soil. Water it good, make sure it's all drained out. Some pit folks put little holes in the side here, because if you have a lot of rain, while you have these things outside, you can't get the roots rotted, starting to rot in here. So make sure you have plenty of drain places. Okay, then you put your seed in, close it up, seal it up. A lot of people use duct tape. I have learned from experience that duct tape is an absolute pain. After it's been on this bottle for 3 or 4 months, sitting outside, tape is a booger to get off. And what I do is I use pipe cleaners. Usually I cut the pipe cleaner in half. Okay. And I have a hole puncher. That I use to punch little holes in here. And I just thread the thing through here. Do it on all 4 sides. With it closed. Use your pen. I use this type of pencil, this grease pencil. Some people use laundry pens. Some people use oil paint based pens. The main thing is do not use a permanent marker. The Sharpie ink does not last on here. Then you wind up with your mystery pots again, mystery containers again. And I've learned through experience also to put the name or whatever you have in here on both the top and the bottom, just in case the top does fall off. You have a good way of making sure that you know what's in there. Okay. And after you've labeled your bottle, you set it outside, like I said before, put it in a nice sunny spot and a place where it's going to get plenty of water, plenty of rain, plenty of sunshine, and just totally forget about it. I liked it. What I did last year is I put it over in the corner of my patio and I didn't even look at it until later on in the springtime. And when I did look at it, that's what I found. Isn't that cool?
That's great.
I actually grew that myself. Can you believe that? And what I did is I used a method that I learned online called the hunks and chunks of seedlings. And what I did is I got the let me fasten here. Since the seedlings are very nice and hardy, it's easy to get these out of here. You just squeeze the sides, squeeze the bottom, at the bottom, and then just pull the hunk of seedlings out of the container. You do it gently so that you don't pull everything out at one time. But these roots, there's so many roots in here that holds all the soil together very nicely. So you just grab it out, set it down, and I use a fork and a knife. And I very gently use my fork and the knife, and I just pry little hunks about this big of seedlings off of the potting soil that I have here. And I just put that in the ground in my garden spot. And I have my garden. And I really like this because it's simple enough that I can do it. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. Like I said, you can winter sow just about anything. You can do annuals, you can do perennials, you can do shrubs. The shrubs, you need a little bit bigger containers. Grasses, native grasses. You can do just about anything except for bulb plants. Bulb plants will not work. But it's a wonderful way to do it. And, you know, this is just the basics in a nutshell. There's a winter sowing group on Facebook that has all the details of preparing the different types of containers. Another type of container that I've used that I really like are those produce containers that you get berries and tomatoes in. It already has a lid, so you don't have to do any cutting. It's already got little holes in it, so you don't have to do any punching. It's very convenient, very nice. And they're big enough that you can fit a good 3-4 inches of soil in there. I tried using the aluminum pans, the disposable cake pans, 13x9 pans. That didn't work. I know that it has the plastic lid and everything, but I just wasn't able to get enough soil in there, and I didn't get anything to grow. But the most success I've had are with the soda bottles and with my water bottles and my milk bottles. But you can try anything. I mean, experiment with whatever you want to. It works wonders. And this group on Facebook, I've got the link on the handout that I gave you. They can tell you all different types of about the potting soils that are best to use. The list of perennials, annuals, vegetables that you can plant, and when to sow. When's the best time to sow them? And everything you need to know about sowing, but didn't know to ask. Yes.
Real quick, sorry, may I ask, so about when you plant them now, you plant them in January? I
You
mean, I know
start
it's-
at after the winter solstice,
Oh,
after Christmas.
okay,
You can start sowing in December, the end of December, January, February, March. It's better to go ahead and do the perennials first because they're the ones that need to be stratified most of the time. Go ahead and get them going first, then start on your annuals, and then do your vegetables like in April or May. That way they'll be ready when your garden's ready for your veggies. It works out pretty good. And over the past couple of weeks during my walks, I've been gathering some seeds, and I gathered up enough for all you folks to have a few samples if you would like. So I left them over there on the table.
wow.
Thank you for your patience.
Fantastic. Greta, that was amazing.
Thank you.
I agree. That was so wonderful. How about that for our first member presentation?
Beat that book, nerd.
Hard act to follow there.
Yeah. Oh, Jason, you're up next. Let me see.
Jason, we already know you're awesome.
Thank you.
You got it.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
you-
I didn't have any PowerPoint or anything.
That's
Cause it just hit me like a spur of the moment thing about, I don't know, what was it, 4 days ago, 3 days ago, something like that. So I just thought I would give just to touch on a couple of things, briefly. I talked earlier in the year about my native plant garden at Brook Green, where I'm a horticulturalist at. You all know us pretty well over here. But this garden, I'll start with this part first. Well, yeah, I'll start with this part first. They're two separate things, and this is a section I maintain out there, but it contains all South Carolina native plants that are found. It's predominantly coastal plain oriented, but I do have a collection of Piedmont and mountain plants that I think will do pretty well out here. And it's like I've said before, it's just basically a ongoing, everyday, continuing process of trying to improve it and just kind of let it do its thing also. We recently, I want to actually give a big thanks to the native plant sale we had in Conway, because that was a big benefit. Me and Kayla, who also works at Brook Green Gardens, and Lucy and Jimmy, we were all out there, and we were able to get quite a few good plants that I haven't seen anywhere else, and some that we've some of the vendors we've worked with before, of course, Roots and Shoots and Dwight at Bottle Tree Gardening. So it was a really big success, in my opinion. Just looking around, that plant sale was just awesome. I mean, Dwight sold everything except one plant out there, and I saw a lot of them that did really, really well. So I was impressed with that. But yeah, there was a lot of great plants we acquired, a lot of I like to call some missing links, and we just added to our collection with different native plants that we already have to expand beds or collections. I've got for the first time some Jerusalem artichoke, which we don't even have in our collection right now. We've had it before out there, but that'll be planted. Blue flower Ringio, which of course is out there. There's a whole list of them that I'm going to forget, so I won't go through everything. I expanded my garden. Basically, this is the old picture from about 2-3 years ago. But if you go out there again, this is the bed edge that has always been out there since the Leonard Pavilion was put in. I expanded this out to go to where the sidewalk is now. So it's nothing huge. It's still a garden, but this, what you're seeing right here, will be a walking trail with grass, and there will be more of this native plant bed. So the whole idea that I had was just to kind of create a immersive area where you kind of feel like you're in a field, basically, just for a little place from here to here. But we didn't have anything quite like that in Brook Green, so I thought it was a good addition. And Kaylee, you've added some new beds out at the zoo. So that's really exciting. Out where I think Cowboy, the old alligator, exhibits at. Yeah, so come check that out. I think that's going to be exciting. We were we were saying if we've gotten our plants in the ground, and no, that's my answer to that. I have not, but that's on the plan for this week, next week. But they'll do fine. They'll do good. They'll overwinter. That'll get the roots established. So this is a great time to get them in the ground. So on that note, I just thought I'd mention, how many of you all are familiar with Rudy Mankey?
Say that again.
Rudy Mankey, he's a naturalist now. Well, it's been a while since he's been on TV, but he had a nationwide television show on PBS called Nature Scene. It aired for about 25 years. The reason this strikes me is because it all just kind of lines up with my life in a way. It started in 1978, which was when I was born. And I apologize, my voice is a little weak. I'm a little tired, but when I heard he passed earlier this week or late last week, I can't remember. And it was kind of just like a awakening of how time just kind of is going on and on, because he's right in line. His age was right in line with my father. I did the math. I think he was born the same year. And I grew up, I moved to South Carolina when I was 7 years old. And again, Rudy Mankey, it's hard to explain this if you never saw the show. The most recent thing he's done has been on the radio, public radio. He's had a daily quick radio snippet called Nature Notes that's been played every day really for the past 10 years or so, and he'll give little facts about different things in nature, and his big focus was the interactions and the interconnections in nature. So that may be the most recent exposure people have had to him. He's also was recently a professor up at USC in Columbia. And but on this show, I was first exposed to it back when I was, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. I was living in Virginia and Maryland, and I can remember with my dad, he would turn it on. I had no clue what it was. It used to be a show that was only aired in South Carolina. And they only took field trips within the state. And then around, I don't know, 82, 83, they decided to expand it nationwide, and PBS put it on nationwide. So it was a nationwide show. And I remember seeing my dad watching it, and it's a very tame show for a 5 or 6-year-old to watch. They're standing there explaining nature, but I was intrigued by it. And now in retrospect, my father was from South Carolina. His family is from here, and my family's from here. But he was from Spartanburg, which is where Rudy Mankey is from. And I've put this together in years since then, that he was kind of, because we were in Maryland and Virginia, he was reconnecting with where he came from with that, and it was kind of like taking him back. There was no internet or cable. We didn't have cable. So this was his chance during the week to kind of go back to South Carolina and watch that. And then we moved to Spartanburg, ironically, in '85 when I was about 7. And in the '80s, I would see the show on and off as a kid, even in the classrooms here in elementary school. They would wheel in the big TV, and we'd watch that every once in a while. And it was usually about South Carolina, the shows that they would air on there. And then we moved to the rural part of the state in the early '90s, Blackville, and we got privileged enough, even though we were way in the rural area, we didn't have cable, but we invested in a big old satellite dish. And I'm not talking about the small ones, I'm talking about the real dishes that you had to have a field, and they rotated around and they connected with the direct signal from a satellite in space. So I had all kinds of options to watch different shows from around the world, and I kind of lost touch with nature scene during those teenage years. And then I graduated and moved to Columbia, and then that's where I kind of was reintroduced to it. I came across the show again. It had been maybe 8 years since I had seen it, and I was like, oh wow, I remember that from a kid, and I didn't know he was still doing that show. And I was kind of going through a little culture shock, having gone from a rural area to Columbia. Columbia's not a big city, but it feels that way when you come from when you're 18, 19 and you've been living in the country for that long. So that was kind of like a peaceful repose to kind of take me out of that environment. It was also about that time I kind of discovered Congaree National Park, which actually wasn't a national park then. It was Congaree National Monument. And it was really still kind of a hidden jewel that not many people knew about. But I would go up there just to kind of escape the hustle and bustle of Columbia some weekends. So I just kind of watched. I think the show went through 2003, and I would catch it every now and again. But I did have an interaction with Rudy. Certainly never knew him, but I'll say this now. It was an honest, wasn't intentional, but I kind of hitched a backdoor ride. He used to give these nature walks as field trips. And then towards the end, he would do them on a nationwide basis. In other words, you'd hear on the radio an ad for a field trip like to Wyoming or Rocky Mountain National Park or whatever. Well, he did one to Congaree National Park, and I heard the radio ads, and just by chance, I happened to be walking up the Congaree one Saturday, had totally forgotten about that, was walking on one of the trails and came up on him in a little group giving that. And he knew, I think he knew I wasn't really registered. He didn't mind at all. He was just like, he welcomed me right in and acted like I was a participant. And it was a really informative experience. So that was my highlight of getting to meet Rudy. But I just think of him as a trailblazer for a naturalist, for being a naturalist, especially in South Carolina. If you have a chance, go back and watch his shows. There's 25 years of them. Anybody who's ever done a nature walk, it really wasn't. South Carolina is not a state where, especially in the 80s and the 90s, that I would say that kind of appreciation for nature was very prominent. It's always been kind of an agricultural rural state in areas, but to go out there and look at it on that level, he kind of introduced so many people in this state to that kind of, and especially children, to that kind of viewpoint of nature, and got, just increased the knowledge of everybody. So he's owed a debt of gratitude, and I don't think there would be this kind of plant society. Certainly, he was a big inspiration for that. He dealt with so many different topics on that show. There's three that kind of stick out to me. Again, he was all about the interactions. So he did a show once from a vacant lot, like where a building had been torn down, and he just sat there with his co-host, and they just looked at all the little weeds and plants that were coming back, and just the interaction about how that was, how nature was reclaiming it, and how it impacted it. He also did one, and he never gave the location for this one. It was called Goldenrod Field, anywhere USA, just out in a field in the fall when the goldenrod's in bloom with all the other different herbaceous perennials. That's one you should see. And then there's one that I had forgotten about. I looked it up recently. And he did it, I think, right towards the end of the show, maybe in the last few years, in South Carolina, called From the Mountains to the Sea, where they just went from the Blue Ridge all the way down here to the coast. They went to Bull Island. They stopped at all these different locations. They kind of followed the Santee, the Congaree, the Broad, and the Saluda rivers, which kind of cuts through the middle of the state. And basically, I just was thinking about that, and that kind of, I think, maybe was in part where I was pulling. I made a geologic garden where I've got the geology from the mountains to the sea, and I think all this was subconsciously maybe all playing a part as to how I came up with that idea. So, there was somebody just recently at work. I take care of the vegetable garden over there at Brook Green. Fran, who has lived in this state for probably her whole life, grew up in Marion. That she had an interaction with Rudy. They were up around. He was doing a little field trip with her. I guess she was a teacher and some students, and they were up around Little River, North Myrtle Beach, kind of near the Waccamaw River. But it's funny, she said they got into the parking lot where they were going to go walk down this path, and she wanted to get down the path so they could start talking, but he spent 10-15 minutes in the parking lot. Just, and she just couldn't get him to leave the parking lot because he just saw all these different little observations that were just amazing. So that's the gist of it. If PBS, I think still, they've gone and put a lot of those shows back online. PBS, or the SCE TV it is. They used to show them on the air for years after it ended, but they don't seem to do that now for whatever reason. So just go check it out. You'll all love it. And like I said, it's 25 years of show. So I just felt like saying that. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, there's power in sharing what you're passionate about with other people. So thank you. Cheers to Rudy. Yes.
How do you spell his last name, Jason?
MANCKE.
Okay, so we just look up his name, we'll be able to find.
If you type that in, just go to South Carolina Educational Television. That's where I just looked it up the other day. They posted a bunch of his shows you can stream on there now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We really enjoyed him.
Yeah, you know.
In his heyday, and one time he was at the Terrace Theater in Georgetown after a Gertie festival we had. He was the guest speaker.
He was a guest speaker at Berkeley quite often.
Yeah, he's been.
One time I was sitting on the side, in the theater, and everybody seemed to be looking over at me, and I go, what the heck's going on here?
And I'll say, just what you saw on TV, I mean, it's not like a bold personality, it's not a flashy guy, like very, straight to the point, but that's what he is. Funny, person.
Quite story about him. I was right at the beginning of our tenure at program now, I was setting up a wildlife display in the auditorium and that. And we was doing the talk that night. And after he got done talking and that, I asked him if he would help me identify some skeletons. And this was about 9 o'clock. So he and I went into the room and started looking at the skeletons and that. And he stayed with me till 3:30 in the morning. And laid skins and skeletons, everything like that, and we set up some displays.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. You started out.
Provide another snack. Be shy. All right. Now you're gonna hear me talk. This isn't gonna be very knowledgeable. This isn't based in science. These are just some feelings I have about some books. And they're books I think that are good for a wide variety of audiences and books I think you should buy. Are any of you familiar with this book, Planting in a Post-Wild World?
My friend Victoria told me about it.
Yeah. I'll say I'm a great collector of books. I don't really like to read books. I just like to hoard them like a dragon. This is a book that I feel cool for having. It's like one I would want to put on my coffee table. It's very interesting. So it's an inspiring call to action dedicated to the idea of a new nature, a hybrid of both the wild and the cultivated. And that really spoke to me. That's what I would like to do in my backyard. This came out about 2015. It is a bit pricey, but I think it is like a great coffee table book. You're welcome to look at it. Some of these books I do have here today for you to browse. But yeah, so I would recommend this one. Next one, this is a new one I picked up at the Cullowhee Native Plant Conference back in July. It's a gorgeous book about Carolina bays. Has anyone familiar with this book? Yeah. Sudie, you like it? Okay. Huh? Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. I thought you said no. I was like, okay. This is another like gorgeous coffee table book that you can peruse and learn more about Carolina bays. Came out in 2020. It is gorgeous, and it's that little book that's on the table there. Then I have some reference books for you. These are ones that some of the steering committees recommended as well. Tierney, I think you recommended this one?
It's in my Amazon wish list. I haven't ordered it yet.
Well, get to it. Seacoast Plants of the Carolinas. Just a great reference book. I find that, and like most of these Southern Gateway books are pretty great. So if you're specifically interested in coastal landscape plants, this is a great one. 2018, about $30. Another Southern Gateways guide, Edible Plants of the Carolinas. I think a couple people on the steering committee recommended this one. I don't know about you, but I really want to be the level of naturalist where I can go outside and just, just be snacking the entire time I'm walking. I'm not there yet, but maybe if I had this book, it would help me. Another Southern Gateways, but this one's about $20. And it has a lot of fun facts sprinkled throughout the book. This one, this is a newish book. This edition, the second edition, came out in 2022. All of the folks are really involved with the South Carolina Native Plant Society. And this is the book on wildflowers of South Carolina. It's gorgeous. You could spend years going through all of the pages. There's lots of fun facts sprinkled through there, but if you want a solid reference book, on wildflowers, this is your go-to. If we're interested, we can try to see if we could put in a bulk order for this book through the Native Plant Society. They did that last year, but if you're interested, we might do that again next year. A little pricey, $40, but there's a lot of knowledge in that book and you're welcome to flip through it. And then I have a couple nonfiction recommendations. How many of you are familiar with this book? Yeah. This is a book that's really responsible for sparking a lot of people's journey into the native plant movement. It's a good, easy read. It's really approachable. You're welcome to give this to your neighbor who's maybe their lawn's maybe too manicured and you want them just to have, you know, a couple plants for the birds. This would be a good book to have for them. I think there's now a paperback version, I'm pretty sure. But this is a great book to gift if you're a book giver. Then I have a couple, or another nonfiction book. How many of you are familiar with this one, Braiding Sweetgrass? Yeah, Babs agrees. It's a delightful book. So the tagline's Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teaching of Plants. And that's really, this book does it beautifully. It's very poetic, very scientific, and we often think of science and beauty and as very separate things, and this book tells you that it's not. So I really recommend this book. Came out in 2015, but I think there was a recent like pretty edition that came out like a couple years ago. So highly recommend this book. This is another good one you can gift. This book, The Home Place by Drew Lanham, Maeve recommended. She said it's really great. It's a memoir. It came out in 2017. This says a remarkable meditation on nature and belonging, deeply moving memoir and riveting exploration of Black identity in the rural South and in America today. This is on a lot of like the recommended books for you know, science writing and memoir. So has anyone read it?
Didn't read it, but I gifted it.
I love that. Hope, did you like it?
Yeah, it's a pretty quick read.
I love that. A quick read. And then this is another book that I collected but haven't yet read. I've read a couple pages and they were just beautiful. It's the story of a Black mother's garden, her journey into turning her very like sterile backyard into a place that provides food and benefit for the wildlife. I said I only got a couple pages in, but it was gorgeous. And I heard about this on NPR. It came out in 2023. It's, you know, it's a new book in hardcover, but I recommend at least what I've read so far, and it's gorgeous. This quote, which I'm sorry, I'm not sure who it's from, but they felt transformed by this graceful and generous book. So I will say all of those books, I checked on Horry County Library. They're all available except unfortunately for soil. They don't have that because I think it's too new, but the rest of them are available either ebook or they have physical copies in a number of branches. I just checked Horry County, not sure about Georgetown, but if we need to sneak some across county lines, I'm willing to do that. But if you are a book buyer like me, I encourage you to buy local. Here are some of the local bookshops in our area. If they don't have this book in stock, most of them can order them for you. I think it'd be great if we all went and asked for some of these books and then they started carrying them in stock. And then, you know, maybe our neighbors accidentally happen upon some of these books. So shop local if you can. And then my final question, are there any books you'd add to this list? You'd recommend your go-to native plant books? All right. Well, no pressure. You're welcome to peruse these. I have a couple more that didn't quite make our list. If you find some or you think of some later and you think we should know about them, send us an email. The South Carolina Native Plant Society is revamping their website and there is a section on books. So your recommendation might end up there. All right, and that's plant books. Okay, now I'm Maeve. Hey, so Maeve couldn't be here tonight, but she not only did she prepare a video ahead of time, she also brought gifts. So, Maeve is going to teach us how to make beauty berry jelly. Oh. Hold on, let's.
Website and
Let's have her wave again.
hi everybody. I'm going to show you how to make beauty berry jelly. I am using a recipe that I found on Southern Living magazine's website. And if you are interested in foraging beauty berries, make sure you have permission to harvest them and you are able to positively ID the plant. This is my beauty berry bush, Calicarpa americana. You can see it's got these beautiful clusters of purple berries. Now mine, I think, was a little past ripe, so to harvest the berries, I was only using the totally purple, not faded looking berries, and I would just sort of roll them in my hands and they came right off, so they were super easy to gather in the yard. And then I brought them back inside to give them a thorough rinse. I don't use any chemicals or pesticides in my yard, but just to get off any dirt or twigs. So give them a really good rinse in the sink. And then I had to get together all my materials for the jelly. So you can see I've got mason jars, pectin, and I got all these supplies from Walmart. I've got regular granulated sugar, I've got a cheesecloth or a strainer would work here, and my beauty berries. Beauty berries are sort of interesting. They don't have a lot of juice, like a juicy berry. They are sort of starchy when you break them open, but they did have a really nice smell. So the first thing I had to do was to mash up the beauty berries. I just used a potato masher. I don't think I did a perfect job, but fast forward a little bit, I got most of them broken apart, and then I just added 2 cups of water. And I brought that whole mixture up to a boil. And I'm essentially making beauty berry tea here. So once it was boiling, it just had to simmer for a little bit. And then here's where I messed up filming, but I didn't catch where I was pouring it. But I strained the whole mixture into a cheesecloth and strained it off. So I've just got a beauty berry tea essentially. And that's what I added in the pectin. And I just give it a quick stir to make sure it's fully dissolved. I'm doing this over low heat. And then I added in 2 cups of sugar. And I brought that back to a boil and let it boil for a few minutes. It did sort of foam up, so I did, you'll see I'm scooping off the foam before pouring it into the mason jars to set. And it wasn't perfect, but just to make it nice and clear. All right, and then after a few minutes, or I'm sorry, a few hours later, it has set, and we're going to do a taste test, see how it is. And it's really good. It's like cranberry flavored, but not as tart. I think it would be really good for Thanksgiving, or you can spread it on toast. So please enjoy, keep in the fridge, use within 2 weeks. Yeah, hope you enjoy.
Even though Maeve couldn't be here, she did share some of her beauty berry jelly, and we got it here on crackers. Is anyone gluten free? Anybody? Okay. Just take your gluten free.
Yeah, I want to hear some of the reactions.
Yeah, you'll have to make the Maeve face.
Yeah,
Really got
all right,
late for me to harvest now. It's too late for me to.
yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
So, yeah, everyone give your reviews to Maeve. Only if they're good reviews, but. All right, and then Sudie. Hey.
So, I guess this came up because who was on the Kingsburg Bay field trip? Anybody? I think I had like 6. So we had a field trip on November 4th, which prompted me to kind of bring out this. Lisa Lord and I are both part of the Native Plant Society, and we're on the Bay Committee. So we have a couple of properties that we own, the Native Plant Society owns. One's in Florence, and that's Kingsburg Bay, and one's in Bamberg County, which is way over south of Orangeburg, which I used to live closer to, and I started helping manage that. But I just wanted to give y'all a little update because we own these properties, and if there's ever I might be putting out a call for volunteers, or needs that we might have for some of the properties that we own as a Native Plant Society. And this is a short update that we made for the state meeting a couple weeks ago. But if y'all want, one day I have like a more extensive presentation that has like a lot of before and after, some pretty photos, but this is really quick. But so this is Kingsburg Bay, and this is in Florence. And it's, if you go 378 and you go, I think it's across the little PD, there's a new Dollar General. Right after it turns to 4 lanes, there's like Old River Road to the right, and you go up there, and then you turn left on Chinaberry. And our bay is just a couple miles up on the left, and it used to be owned. So when I moved back to South Carolina in 2005, I went on a field trip with Richard Porcher to this bay. And I remember it was about 2006, and it was a meadow with a lot of wildflowers. And then that's back when fires I guess the locals used to burn it. Then it evidently got in the hands of Santee Cooper. And so it sat there and had no fire for like 15 years. And then it turned into this, which is just a bunch of loblolly pines that grew up. And the significance of the bay is that back when Richard Porcher and Patrick McMillan found it and used to go survey it, they found 3 federally listed plants. So one is Canby's dropwort. It's used to be Accephalus cambyi, but I think it's Teedmania. Am I saying that right? Teedmania, which is in the carrot family, and it's just kind of spindly, and it grows in really wet bays and has this little carrot-like white flower. So federally endangered, Boykins lobelia and bay boneset. But they haven't been seen there in years because now it was covered up in loblolly pine. So this just kind of shows you where it is. So that's our little, we don't have a pointer, do we? A pointer? Is this a pointer?
I don't know.
Well, I'll just show you. This is what we own. And so right here is, if you go there, we own this lady's driveway. So if you pull in under the power line, you can walk around out there, because that's what we own. And so part of our management was to, first of all, remove the loblolly pines. We got that done 2 or 3 years ago. This shows you what it looked like. So that's just like a biological desert. The loblolly pines were sucking up all the water. No herbs. Every now and then there were little pockets of herbs. And that, we can see where it is there. So just an update, we've actually had those harvested. So there's our rare plants. So bay boneset, Eupatorium palaticola, and then lobelia boykinii. And then there's a couple other state tract plants. But so now we harvested the pines, and it kind of looked like a mess for a while. And then had fire breaks put in. You can see the fire breaks over here. And there's a little ridge with some longleaf pine. So you have a little mix of really nice wetland vegetation along with this upland sort of longleaf pine understory on the edges. And so the goal is to get fire back into the system that's going to promote those rare plants, and hopefully we're going to see them again. So this was the summer after we harvested the pines. So you can, and all of this white flower is red root, which is Lacnanthus caroliniana. And there were bees all over it. And this is one of the meadow beauties. So I think there's hope that our rare plants might reemerge, but we still have to keep management, and we got to keep fire in there because the sweet gum are going to jump up. There were bees. This place was just booming with bee activity, just everywhere. And then this was from our field trip just the other day. So it wasn't like, you know, a lot of showy stuff to look at, but it was, we just walked around and talked about the management and what needs to be done. So you can see here's a little pine ridge with some longleaf pine. This was probably the showiest, prettiest plant we saw out there, which is, it is myrtle leaf holly, which is Ilex myrtifolia. So it's a holly with little small leaves, and it grows right in the middle of Carolina Bay. So it likes to be in that low wet area. And then this is the dried up red roots. And then you can see the sweet gum, dried up brown leaves. So that hopefully the fire is going to take care of those. And next year we're going to find some rare plants. So this is just our other property, just for curiosity's sake. This is in Bamberg County, right on the side of 301. So if you ever are over in Bamberg area, you go south out of town on 301, you go 8 miles and you cross the Little Salkehatchie, look on your right, because you'll see that pretty much. You'll see a little dip, and you'll see a bunch of cypress trees and some early successional habitat, as opposed to the pines and farmland that's everywhere else. That's our bay too. And you can stop right there and like look in or walk in. But that is Canby's Dropwort. And so this one we've owned for a longer period of time, I think since 2006. I think it's called Lisa Matthews Bay because somebody named it after somebody in their family, and then they think it was owned by the Nature Conservancy, and then they donated it to the Native Plant Society. And the uplands were covered in a loblolly pine stand. So the first order of business was cut the loblolly pines because they're sucking up the water, very low biodiversity, and they were shading out. So these Canby's Dropwort like to have this side sunlight coming into the edge of the bays. But when they first got this property, they only counted like 200 Canby's Dropwort. And now it was the biggest population in this whole range. A couple years ago, they found a bigger one, but I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of plants. We used to do a survey every year. We just quit count. I mean, you can't count anymore. And the way we counted it was, does anybody know Jeff Glitzenstein? Anyway, we had these plots for Jeff Glitzenstein. I think I said that wrong. We would tie a flag around every plant in the plot and then take them all off and count the flags. It was just, and it was, August. Crazy. And this just shows you where it is. So this is the bay, or this is the property is pretty much this funky shape here. So and the Canby's Dropwort right here. So if you're driving south, you can just pull over right here, especially in August and September, and just see white flowers that's found. And we have fire break here, and what we've been doing is burning, brush cutting. I even cut some trees along the edge of the bay. And it's actually both of our bays are due. We have a contractor lined up to burn both of them any day now. So if anybody has any experience or wants to watch the fire line, we might have an opportunity if y'all want to help with that. And we paid a contractor to do some mulching out there. And so you can see where some of the shrubs were knocked down, but then they jump right back up. So we got to get the fire back in there. And the other thing that happened out here is early on in the project, Jeff Glitzenstein and some other botanists did some seed collection, and they grew out some of these native plants. They collected wiregrass from Acorn Gopher Tortoise Preserve and grew out wiregrass, and so the uplands are covered in wiregrass, and that really helps carry the fire when they get that going. So that's a close-up of the Cambridge dropwort, and then we planted longleaf out there to restore that. And our fire break is ready to go. So hopefully they're gonna burn really soon. So, and the way that we're able to fund this is myself and Lisa Lord. She's with Native Plant Society, but also with the Longleaf Alliance. We've applied for different funding sources. I think Lisa Matthews Bay started with a Partnership Fish and Wildlife grant, but then subsequently with my old job, they've gone through like several NRCS contracts where they get funded, they get sort of a cost share from the USDA for for these practices. And so that that takes some time, and we have to kind of sign up and keep it up and get it done. And so we kind of need some ideas for more funding. So that's kind of a state level thing, but there's been the idea that we need to, raise some money for some of this. And we probably had some volunteer opportunities. For one of those contracts, we're supposed to erect some bird boxes at Lisa Matthews Bay. If anybody builds bird boxes or anything and wants to do that, let me know. But that's all I have about our properties. Any questions about our properties? That's it.
I think we'll have another field trip to Kingsburg
It
next
should be
year.
pretty in the summer, especially if we get the burn done.
Nice. All right. Let's get our plan of the month. Drum roll.
We really do need a theme song, I think.
Yeah.
If anybody's good at that kind of thing, have at it and send it our way. Yeah, so plant of the month, I've really been enjoying this. This is our 11th plant of the month. There'll be one more for 2023, and my plan is our first meeting of 2024. We will vote out of the 12 of this year what is plant of the year for 2023. So so pay attention and look back through newsletters if you've missed them. A lot of the time, plan of the month sort of comes to me, maybe even the week before our meeting or newsletter. I'm just out taking a walk and I happen to see something, and this one is no different. It's Baccharis halumifolia. Common names include groundsel tree, sea myrtle, or consumption weed. I'm guessing consumption weed. Consumption is the antiquated term for tuberculosis, and I'm assuming at one time people believed that this plant could be used to help with consumption. I make no claims whether that is true or false. I'm just assuming based on that common name. It is a large woody shrub. These guys can get up to 12 feet tall and up to 7 feet wide. So they need a decent amount of space. They like full sun. But they really like wetter habitats, so they'll grow on the edges of fresh and saltwater marshes, as well as roadside ditches. And I thought this was really interesting in Weekly's Flora in the habitat descriptions. It said they like abused land. I just thought that was interesting. Usually you see disturbed, but in this case, so they can get a little weedy if you've got a spot in your yard that's been like tilled up or something, and it's a little wet. So they do kind of can be a little bit weedy there. They're popping up in my yard and I just absolutely love them. So if you've got a big rain garden or a low spot in your yard, these are a great specimen plant for that. They can be found mostly coastal from Massachusetts down through Florida, and then they get a little bit farther inland in Louisiana, Alabama, and eastern Texas. The state map shows them in almost every county in the entire state, but Weekly's Flora actually says that they're introduced to the upstate. So this is really more of a coastal species that has been moved into the upstate. These are the flowers. Sea myrtle is actually a dioecious plant. I don't think I've used that term before. That just means two houses. What that indicates is that there's male plants and there's female plants. They have different flowers, and you actually need both of them to be able to get seed. So this is the male here, and then on the left is the female flowers. And the female ones are the ones that you sort of notice at this time of year. They've actually gone to seed now, but maybe a few weeks prior, they're like the big white, they almost look snow covered or something. These are the seeds. They're super, super tiny, and they're attached to those filamentous material that allows them to blow on the wind. So this is a wind dispersed plant. These are the leaves. I almost think they look like little paw pads or something. But they have these sort of dentate or tooth-like lobes on the leaves. These are pollinator magnets. Bees love them, butterflies love them. Other types of like wasps love them. They're just covered in insect activity. The picture of the monarch I actually took 2 falls ago, but when I was researching what species use this plant, pictures of monarchs on this species just kept coming up. So this is definitely a favorite of adult monarchs as they're doing their migration. So this is a really good support plant for monarchs and their migration south. And then obviously that metallic bee is just absolutely gorgeous. So I had to include, and that metallic bee is actually on one of the male flowers. So he's getting pollen, or he or she is getting pollen off of the male plant there. And that's it. They're pretty easy to come by. They grow out in the wild. They transplant pretty easily. So I've been moving them around in my yard if they pop up somewhere that I don't like. I did find that there are some cultivars, there are patents for cultivars, but I wasn't able to actually find anywhere that was selling them. So I don't know if that's a relatively new thing to the market, but that's it. Any questions? It's okay if you don't have any. Thank you.
All right, well, we just have a couple more things, a couple events to share. And then you'll be able to get your goodies and get some other food and head out of here. Green drinks. So our friends of Lewis Ocean Bay are having green drinks Monday, November 27th at Tidal Creek. So see you there. Winyah Rivers Alliance is having Hobnaw at Hobcaw on Saturday, December 2nd. This is their fundraiser. You can reach out to Aaron if you have any questions about this and to buy tickets. It's a great event with a lot of great food for a great cause. All right. Another Winyah Rivers Alliance event. This time it's for Canines for Clean Water. So if you have a dog who you think would be a great spokesperson for clean water and picking up after your dog, this is the event for you. Your dog could become famous. You could, fame and glory, the whole 9 yards. But most importantly, you're sharing important information about keeping dog poop out of our waterways and harming our ecosystems. So this is coming up on Saturday, December 9th, also at Tidal Creek Brew House in Market Common. If you have any questions, I'm sure Aaron can help. Yeah. Bring your dog.
That was my question.
All right. Other than that, we will see you next year. So far, we're planning to keep it the 3rd Thursdays. So we will see you on January 18th, 2024. Feature speaker to be determined by the Education Committee. Anything else? Does anyone have anything to share? Yeah.
We Nancy in the chat said that Beth Calvi is speaking at Brook Green. Is that correct?
So our garden symposium, we haven't gotten the contracts all signed yet, but Doug Talamy is our planned keynote speaker. That's gonna be March 9th, so more to come, but I haven't widely spread that information yet, because I wanna get a signed contract back.
I gotcha.
We have verbal, yeah.
Our Zoomers are blowing up your spot, so.
I don't want to commit it and it happened like somehow fall through, so more official information.
Great. So maybe if he's in the area, it'd be good if you read his book before he's here. So, all right, anything else? Yeah.
Hey, Brook Green Gardens is hiring in the horticulture department. We're hiring horticulturists and for the gardener position. You could see me, or if you know anybody that's interested, you can apply through Indeed. That's like the official place to apply. You'll probably find information on our website, but go to Indeed or ask me or get my email.
Woo! Employment. All right. On your way out, don't forget to get some of Greta's seeds to sign the petition for Lewis Ocean Bay if you haven't already. Grab some more food, look at some books. Wow, that's a whole list. Are y'all taking notes? And while you're leaving, we're gonna play some photos. So thank you so much for a great first year, and we'll see you next year.
The chapter, the whole country chapter of the Native Plant. Is Low Country selling the shirts online?
Not yet. Not that I know
Not
of,
yet.
but
Oh, yeah, I remember they used to give you your.
Are we giving away the rest of this very jelly? Yeah. It's really interesting. I think recently
We also have very patient. Just being yeah. You must have yeah.
That is a fire. All the fire. Yeah.
We're getting kind of crazy with $100,000.
Yeah. Yeah. I did. Like literally.
For any different position, like, we have, they have.
And maybe they find your not big
There's still it needs to be in town. January.
Yeah.
So we have all the, you have a.
No, what model did you have? The first year or the second year? No, I did not. I was hoping you got the first year, because the first year. it has a fun take some increase, but we have the 23. I'll look at that. Can I use that one? Yeah. Yeah. It hasn't blown up yet.
Right.
So that's. That's when it opens. Yeah, they do.
Yeah. And then there's the whole. I just. So well last year. I didn't. And part of it, but what I did. Yeah. I didn't know. Oh, that's probably, yeah. And I love the shot with
Alright, so each of that, I've got this, I've got another. Each of that. Just need to. Thursday. It's down. Involved.
We did, yeah. I do have that whole roll with it. I'm sorry.
Oh, and if you're talking about. Oh, no.
You offered the site.
I need to go, so.
I did.
Yes.
Not yet, they were still in.
Hopefully they have some thoughts this week.
What we can hold on to that, because you get out again, like,
This is. Yeah, it is. Neurofins is the one.
Nice, perfect dirt bike.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's still. Yeah.
So it's just. They probably don't have a bond or any. All I remember is I was going.
Some areas.
I had tried to map where I saw the supposed site was supposed to be on the mapping where it said their water sample showed kind of this. That was supposed to be. And I was driving there and like, there's like, without the middle of nowhere. I mean, I literally had to longitude, latitude. And the only thing I thought was, well, I have to get out, probably hike. Now I'm gonna be doing that by myself. So, but I remembered exactly where it was and then I came out and of course it was like there's. Thank you.
Like, I don't think I was able to reply. It's easy. Yeah, Trevor was great about it, but there's nothing that they ever write people.
Yeah.
Where to go to get permission to do that.
That's great, you know, absolutely.
So, I mean, the subsidy, has been great. I used to work. All the time. He said it was one of those things.
Down in there with the spot down in a way. Work did a lot to do with the fact that, you know, it just ends up flooding.
That first song was such a bang.
Over the course. If there's a lot of agriculture,
They were trying to build up,
there's actually
you
a
know,
lot.
burns,
In the area, then